Good morning, my friends. Welcome to the 10-minute book talk, where three best-selling authors talk all things bookish with you for 10 short and sweet minutes every week. Guess what? I'm hosting today, and I'm excited because I have Libby Gill with us, and her debut novel, well, I'm going to tell you lots about her, but her debut novel is Malibu Summer, and it is a lot of fun. And Libby, tell us about your delightful book.
Well, thank you. I will be happy to. As you can see, I'm proud of it. It's all over the place. It is about, of all things, a female soil scientist, an edaphologist, who has invented this irrigation organic product. She is an academic. She is a superstar in the world of science. And suddenly her husband dies in a bicycle accident, and she just wants to drop everything and grieve in peace. So her best friend gets her a job as the gardener on the estate of a Malibu Hollywood television producer. And of course, she does everything but find peace and quiet when she gets involved in the household. So that's kind of the gist of it. It's two worlds clashing.
A lot of fun. So.
Goodness. Okay, so this though is your debut novel. It sounds
It
massively creative, but you've written 6 nonfiction. So I want to know a little bit about if this was more fun, if this was more difficult, the sort of insight into switching genres so completely.
Well, I would say it was both of those. It was much more fun, but it was also more difficult. In my business world, and I started in TV, so I knew a lot about that part of the book that I write about, which is fun, kind of doing a little thinned up of the crazy television industry. But in nonfiction, after I left TV, I started an executive coaching business. I'd always been a kind of C-suite female executive. So I started helping other women leaders. And I wrote books about that, to support that, about leadership and getting unstuck and claiming your seat at the table, all that kind of stuff. And I loved that. But a big part of that was it was tied to the business. It's part of marketing. I do a lot of corporate speaking, and that was all great. But I just knew someday I'm just going to tell a story. I'm going to write a book just for fun. And, I thought, oh, when I have time, like that ever comes. But I just decided I would write it anyway. And I started writing and put it away when work got busy, and put it away. And I'm sure you all know how that goes. And then during the pandemic, of course, my calendar, it was over. I wasn't speaking I wasn't on the road. I thought, time to pull that out of the drawer and finish that thing up and see if I can get an agent or a sale. And what do you know? I did.
Good. That's
there you are. I always love that, because you do know this, it really is hard. If we do our jobs properly, we make it look like writing a novel is just the easiest thing. We just talk into a dictaphone, and it's kind of like, yeah, don't try this at home, kids. We're professionals.
Right.
So, right. It is tougher than it looks. It absolutely
with nonfiction, it's sort of like writing a term paper. You've got a subject, you've got, your questions at the end, you've got research. So and each chapter is kind of standalone. You don't have to pull all those threads through. So in many ways, that's because it's more structured. And if you know your topic and you're out talking about it all the time, it's much easier. Where, like you said, with fiction, it's like there's the big old empty page times 300, and you're making it up every second. And that thing about adding layers, boy, is that ever true?
Yeah, no, it's not an easy thing to do. So, but I want to go back a little bit. You do have a background in television. You were the head of communications at Sony, at Universal, at Turner Broadcasting. Oh my gosh, you're so very accomplished. I love this aspect. So tell readers like what they can be looking for and how you brought those experiences in that aspect into this book.
Well, it was a fun, crazy business. I started as an assistant in the PR department because I was a pretty good writer. And then I became like the writer's writer of the whole group of people that should be able to write, but can't necessarily do the job. So that was always what I was doing in marketing and PR and advertising copy. And I very quickly went up the ladder. In 5 years, I went from being an assistant to being department head, vice president of worldwide publicity and advertising at Sony, and then went on to a couple of other studios, always on the TV side. I liked how quickly it moved. I totally respect your 10 minutes. I think every meeting should be shorter. Every conversation should be more succinct. So I I started in that world, and I worked always in TV because the pace was so fast and fun. And the first show I launched as a public relations baby was Married with Children. And then the last show I worked on was Dr. Phil, and many shows in between, every talk show you can name, except Oprah, although Phil was a spinoff of Oprah, so it had a lot of crossover there. But Law and Order, Mad About You, all these mini shows over the years. So it was so fun because I'd seen just the behind the scenes. So my character Conrad is sort of a composite of all those television executives who want to do great work, but it's a business, and they are pushed into that. Hey, it's a business, and you got, not unlike fiction, you got to sell something. So you can't just write for yourself. And as a writer, he had to write something to sell, and he was not necessarily happy about how it turned out, but that was the fun of it. And then the development executives who were making the decisions, it was super fun to poke a little fun at that world.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. They were not my favorite people, but they were kind of the people I love to hate in this book. So yeah.
And I was one of them too, in the world of reality. Taking all those crazy pitches from people. It was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, I love that. All right, well, I love a good rom-com, and you have this delightful cover. You've got a fun premise, but I also know that this story is much deeper than just a rom-com, that you have three main characters. You have Conrad, you have his son Hudson, and then you have Ivy, and they're all dealing with grief. And so this is kind of a heavier story than just a standard light rom-com read. And so I'm curious, can you talk to us a little bit about that theme of grief and what you're hoping readers take away from the story?
Well, I didn't know it was a rom-com when I wrote this. I was just writing a book, and I'd had somebody very close to me become ill with a chronic illness, which thank goodness is managed, but it broke my heart. And I thought, I always knew I wanted to write about TV. And I thought, let me put some of that in up against that world of television. And then they both became widow and widower. And of course, Hudson, the stepson, is sort of reeling from the death of his mom. And it's very different through the eyes of a child what grief looks like. So I thought I would just look at it from different points of view. And the whole idea, and what I really hope readers take, is that love conquers grief. I think love conquers all. And to me, directly, it was if you can experience love and joy after the most heartbreaking experience in life, and if we live long enough, we experience something heartbreaking, whether it's the loss of a loved one or a job or your money or your health, and that we can get through. And that it's really love, and particularly the love of another, that pulls us through that difficult experience.
I like that.
Doesn't sound very rom-com-y when I sum it up, but to me, I appreciate that you saw.
Well, no, but I think it's all of those. I mean, I think there there's humor, there's meet cutes, there's those elements, but there's that deeper element too. And and I think that's a good takeaway, whether people are in grief. You're right. We're all going to have to walk this road at some point. So I think it's good to have tools, and fiction is powerful because it helps us prepare for these things that are in our real lives. So, well, it has been a joy to have you on, but before we sign off, Libby Gill, I want to ask you, what's bringing you joy today?
Well, I moved, after living in LA for many years, I moved to Southern Oregon with my husband. He retired from entertainment law. So I'm here in the Rogue Valley, and I've already got let's see if you can see them. I've got my sneakers on. I'm ready to go out and take a big walk in nature, because we're in a valley surrounded by two mountain ranges. So I'm going to just go wander for a while and stick a book in my ear, and that's joy.
That is a good place. And well, as a native Oregonian, I welcome you to the state. I hope if you didn't have a dog and a mountain bike when you came, they will issue you one soon. So it's just a deal.
Your tax return, you get sent one,
Right. They're like, wait, you don't have a dog? Here's a loaner dog till you can find your own. So, well, thank you so much for joining us today, friends. The book is Malibu Summer by Libby Gill. It is an enjoyable read. There's a lot here. And if you're looking for a book that has some romance, but it goes a little deeper, this might just be the one for you. Libby, thanks for joining us today. And thank you, friends, for joining us. We'll see you here next week on the 10-Minute Book Talk. Bye-bye.